everyone. Welcome back to Doorway to Discovery. If you don't know me, my name is Erin and my pronouns are she, her.
My name is Kylie and my pronouns are also she, her.
I'm Shelby and my pronouns are also she, her.
What do we read this month, girls?
Drama.
Drama.
This was one of our survey winners from way back in the spring when we did a little poll on our Instagram. So we're getting to the end of the poll results now. So drama was this winner.
Yeah, I don't know about the two of you, but I had a really difficult time choosing a book because the genre of drama is really difficult to define. Like, it's not as easy as, say, like fantasy or sci-fi or mystery or romance or whatever. So I just ultimately picked the most dramatic book that I've read recently.
Yeah,
I know too, because I was just like, what do I read? And I'm like, do I read an older book that's just in general fiction that's like kind of drama-y, or like is it a newer book? Because a lot of times I would look them up and they'd be like, oh, romance, drama, and I'm like, no, like I don't want the romance, I just want the drama, and they're like, no.
No,
yeah, I think drama is one of those that's really good at crossing genres, and it's just it's can be everywhere. So
yeah. What did you read, Shelby?
I go first. Okay, so I know super out of the norm for me, but I'm actually doing one and I fully read this book. I'm very proud of myself. I've been in a bit of a reading funk. I know everyone feels that sometimes, and this helped me. So it's Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, and I mean, I don't know where to start with this book because it's so phenomenal, but I find that people either really love Frederick Bachman or they really don't like him. And that's totally understandable. I think it's because they're looking at people and just kind of how they interconnect and just like their lives and the emotions of people. And this one in particular is about a hostage drama. But I wouldn't say that it's like, oh my gosh, they're in a hostage situation, like they're in danger. It's not like that at all. And it's more looking at unconscious bias. And that's most of the book is you don't know people's names, you don't know everybody's genders, you don't know their backstories. And typically, like as you're going through the book, you'll like kind of meet people and you'll start to learn their names, you'll start to learn things about them, but it'll be like, oh, the older cop and the younger cop, and you're like, okay, so there's a younger cop, he's more into investigation, whereas the older cop is like sticking to his old ways. And then you like start to uncover things as you go along, and it just wants you to stop and think about the people. And sometimes we get caught in this kind of understanding. So for instance, I'll give an instance. There's a couple in this book and they're all going to an apartment viewing. So it takes place in Sweden. And yes. I believe that basically people purchase apartments, kind of like condos, the same way they would buy houses here. So there's more or less you're living in apartments. So I would say there's about like 7 of them that have all gone to this apartment viewing. And while they're there, they're taken hostage by a bank robber. And a bank robber comes in and they're like, oh no, like they've got a gun. But at first they're like, oh, it's not a real gun, it's a fake gun. So they don't really believe it. And the way that they kind of talk about it is funny. And for me, with somebody who has anxiety, he speaks kind of the way your brain works, where it's kind of like sporadic. And there'll be like one chapter that's like 2 paragraphs long. That's like, so somebody's standing on a bridge, but you don't need to think about that right now because we're going to think about something else. But oh, it's kind of hard to not think about it now that I've said it. Think about cookies. Cookies are fun. And you're like, oh, okay, we're kind of thinking about cookies, but like, who's this guy on the bridge? So it's really hard to explain. You almost really do need to read it. And by the end of the book, like I was in tears. I loved it. I fell in love with every single one of the characters. It's kind of like a found family too. So all the people who are involved in the hostage drama kind of all end up being a part of each other's lives. And the one couple that I was talking about, it's a husband and a wife. They're older, both retired. And you can kind of see that the wife is very like standoffish, just trying to make her husband happy. And the husband's very much so like, oh, like we want to get this apartment, we want to fix it up, like we're going to renovate and flip it. And so the whole time you're like, oh wow, like she probably stayed at home, like he went to work, like, and this is just kind of the relationship that we think is happening. And then you find out, no, he put his life on hold while she went and her career took off and he stayed at home with the kids. And then they kept putting it off, and he ended up not getting any further at his job and retired right at the end, like never really being involved in his career. And now that they're both retired, this is his thing, and she's just trying to make him happy because she feels like he doesn't get to have what he always wanted. And he loved raising their kids. He loved it. But their kids don't want to have kids. And so he doesn't get grandkids. And so she's like, I want to stop doing these renovations, but I want to make him happy. So it's like those little things that your brain, and I didn't even think about it at first. Like I was talking to a coworker and she was like, this is about unconscious bias. And I was like, what is that? What? I kept feeling so confused. So that was not me figuring it out. I did not figure out it was unconscious bias. So I'm going to give that coin to Lori, because thank you, Lori. You're the one who figured it out. Which also brings us to another side note. This podcast is coming up on September 13th, but Frederick Bachman's Anxious People is one of our book club picks coming up this in fall. Unfortunately, Brooklyn's is literally tonight on the 13th when this is coming out, but I believe it's Central's book in November. So if you're really interested in it and talking about it, is it your book?
It's mine. Yeah, I've been avoiding reading it because I want to read it for book club, so it's like fresh in my mind. So I'm very excited. My mom read it and she's like, it's fantastic. So
it's so good. There's so many good moments, and I think it also helps like with the little bits of anxiety and like the way that we feel, and you know, like it makes you feel better about reaching out to people and talking about yours. Like there is one of the characters does go to see a psychologist, and she's there regularly talking to the therapist, but like, you know, what she's going through. And it all kind of connects back to a suicide that had happened like several years prior. They're all connected to it in some kind of way. It's a part of the book, but I wouldn't say it's the main plot point of the book. But that is something that I will just trigger warning. It does deal with a suicide. And then not only that, somebody else also struggles with their mental health and contemplates it as well. So that's in there. It's very small. The people are not main characters. It's just one of those things that keeps getting brought up. And I think in the end, like he does such a phenomenal job. I know I could just keep going on and on and on about it, but Frederick Bachman's amazing. And honestly, I could have probably done Beartown for this as well. I feel like Beartown would have been a really good drama one as well, because it kind of just deals with people and families and how they kind of interact with each other and what kind of leads. So another one, Beartown. I definitely recommend Beartown if you have not read it yet. That one's really good. They've actually started studying it in high school. I've met a couple of high school students who have been doing it in their English classes. So if you're interested to see what the kids are reading these days,
it's Beartown.
And that one's like a hockey town. So as a Canadian, I read it and was like, oh, this is taking place in Canada. And then as I kept reading, I was like, wait a second, like, what is this? What is this money? Kroner? Like, I don't know what this is. And then the guy had gone to Canada. I was like, where are you? You're so far north in the woods. It has to be Canada. Nope, it's Sweden. So if you kind of like that, like hockey life and you're in it and you kind of feel that, and like being Canadian, like hockey is a huge part of our lives. Even if we don't watch it, like it's still something that comes through. We have like hometown hockey that's even been part of the library. Like it's huge. So Beartown's really good too. And there's 2 books, right? Or is there a third one coming out?
I think there's just 2 right now,
as
far as I know. I mean, so I guess what we can deduce from that is like Bachman writes really dramatic books. Because like I read his A Man Called Ova, and it was also very dramatic.
I have not read that one, although I remember hearing about it. I heard it was really good.
I mean, it wasn't my cup of tea. But that's not to say that the book wasn't good, because like you mentioned, everyone sort of has their own vibe with books, and that's just like not typically something that I read. So I like already wasn't super into it when I picked it up. But most people that I talked to absolutely adored it. So like, I don't know if my review is necessarily the most accurate one.
For that one too, and I know that Beartown got a TV show at HBO, but it's all in Swedish. Like I went to go watch it. I was like, oh,
that was like the girl with the dragon tattoo. They did that too. It was all in Swedish at first, and then they remade the movie into English. But I think you can get like subtitles.
It's good because that's where these stories originated. They were written
agreed.
by people. Like I'm pretty sure this is translated. Like
it is.
This is not an English writer. This is somebody who's in Sweden writing. And I think that's like, you don't often find authors that are like writing in another country in another language and then being so popular in English speaking, right? Like it's rare. Like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is another one of those books.
Yeah.
And that author is phenomenal because he just dropped his manuscripts off at his publisher and then disappeared and passed away.
And then
was
dipped,
like,
yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool.
Those books are great. I read like a YA series, and I'll have to look it up because it was all about, I think it was called Dream a Little Dream, but I will double check because it was all about like people you meet in dreams. And it like blew like 16-year-old Erin's mind. It was so cool because of course it was a romance because I love a romance. And like she met him in her dreams and he met her in her dreams and they meet in real life and it's like a whole thing. But it killed me because again, I believe the author was Swedish and the books had already been published in Sweden and then were sort of gaining traction in North America. But I had to wait forever for like the sequel and then the subsequent third book to get published in English because like I almost read it too soon and it was like the worst torture knowing that the book existed and I just like couldn't read it.
It's just in another language and you just like, yeah.
I feel like I probably won't get as much out of this as I want to, but yeah, I did wait. It was very good.
And still as phenomenal as it is, like the translator must just be so good.
Really
like
good.
Sorry, I'm trying to read the back to see if, actually A Man Called Ove is still in the works as a movie and Tom Hanks is going to be in it. So
they already made a movie though of A Man Called Ove, but I think it's in 100% Swedish. Yeah. So maybe they're making an English version.
But I'm trying to see if he writes, because I don't know. It'd be good to see who their translator is.
So I mean, now you can watch it in Swedish with English subtitles. I know that because it's up on the second floor, which is nonfiction. It's in like the Swedish DVDs. So the more you know. Yeah, what did you read, Kylie?
Oh, okay. I read Circe. This is one that has been on my list for so long, and I just have never gotten around to reading it. Like every time my hold comes up at the library, I'm halfway through something else, and it's just not the right time. And so finally, I was like, hang on a second. Those Greek myths are quite dramatic. That would be great for the drama podcast. So yes, very, very dramatic. So essentially, Circe is the daughter of a Titan, Helios, the sun god. And she kind of is like the not ideal child. She doesn't really have powers. She's very... she's not content with the life of like the gods and the nymphs and the mythical creatures. She doesn't like that. She likes the mortals. She thinks that they're pretty cool. And she essentially kind of meddles with a mortal and is punished by Zeus, exiled to her own island, where she becomes a witch. She doesn't have like the godly powers from her father, but she creates her own powers and becomes like this really powerful witch. And in that, she has a lot of people visit her island. A lot of like the heroes of Greek myths. So Odysseus is probably one of the most famous to visit her island. Also Jason and Medea. She meets the Minotaur at one point, also meets Daedalus and Icarus. So there's a lot, if you're into Greek mythology, there's a lot of kind of like call-outs to other myths, and you kind of see all of these people from Circe's point of view. I will admit it was a little bit slow to start for me, but I won't say what happens, but there's something that happens that like really I was like, oh, I need to know what happens now, and tore through the rest of it. So yeah, it took me a little bit to get into it, but once I was into it, went through. Also, I listened to the audiobook for a good portion of it too. Narrator is phenomenal.
It was really well narrated. I listened to the audiobook of Circe too, like half read it, half listened. It was really
good. She's really great. We have it on Libby. If you're into the audiobook format, I think we also have it on CD, like at the library as well. Many formats of reading Circe. Really, really cool. Super dramatic. Circe literally has issues with everyone she meets, essentially. And halfway through, I've started to wonder, like, are you the problem or is everyone else the problem?
Spoiler alert, Circe's the problem.
It's kind of Circe. But it's really, like, she'll be talking about somebody and then, like, 2 pages later, there's just conflict. And I'm like, ah, yes, here we go. So that, I mean, hey, that's the marker of a drama, a lot of interpersonal conflict. So, but yeah, it's really emotional. There's like a lot of, you basically spend the entire book alone on an island with Cersei. And people come to visit her. So there's a lot of inner monologue. There is also, gets a little dark at some points, but overall it was really, really good. I'll say too, just anything by Madeline Miller is really dramatic. The Song of Achilles also, like, heart-wrenching.
Have you read it yet?
I read it years ago. It's just heart-wrenching. You will cry, but you'll be so happy.
I've avoided reading it because I know it will break me. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have that in me today.
Yeah, I guess I should explain. The Song of Achilles is, during the Trojan War, it's the story of Achilles and Patroclus. And so, I mean, everyone knows what happens to Achilles. That's just, that's common knowledge, but it's just leading up to it, and you know what's going to happen in the end. And it's heart-wrenching. So also very dramatic book.
That seems like a really interesting plot, plot point or device almost, like to mess with the reader. Like, if you know how it's going to end already, like, you get people invested.
So invested. And it's
to
like,
break their hearts.
And it's like, you're reading it and you're like, will she still do it? And then it's like, yeah, she did. She had to. But yeah, it's so heart-wrenching to just like know that Achilles, dies in the Trojan War, and you have to read it anyways because it's just so good.
Yeah.
It's also a book club pick. I feel like everything so far
it is
pick because Cersei back in the day, or at least like during the pandemic and pre-pandemic, was another one of our book club
yes,
sets.
It was.
That's
where I read it.
Yep. And then Song of Achilles is
it's a rapid read now, actually. It's a new rapid read.
Oh yeah, we just got 3 copies on rapid of Song of Achilles here at Brooklyn. I was like, is this an older book? Because this is not new. This isn't 2020.
It's not.
No,
I read it years ago.
Yeah. Do you know who got a hold of Song of Achilles? Book Talk.
Yeah.
So when we say Book Talk, we're referencing like the app on TikTok. There's like a sub-genre community called Book Talk, which are just like readers. And they are currently obsessed with Song of Achilles.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks, Book Talk.
Erin, what did you read?
So I reread something that I read years ago, and I am the opposite of Shelby. It is a romantic drama. It's called It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And to be completely honest, when I found out we were doing drama, this was the first and only book that came to mind because it was probably one of those books that has had the biggest impact on me, that I like, one of my top 10 like of all time. And I'm going to try really hard not to spoil anything, because this is one of those books where I honestly think that it is more powerful if you go in blind and you don't really know what's going on. So it starts with this girl, Lily, and she's just lost her father. And so she comes from his funeral and she just needs some time to herself. And she's just moved to Boston. She wants to sit up on a rooftop patio of sorts. And the building that she lives in is only like 4 stories high. So like she pulls out her map and Google Maps like a building near her, and manages to get up on the roof. And she's just, sitting there contemplating her life. And this guy shows up. And his name is Ryle. And they just start chatting, and it turns into one of those like really intense and meaningful conversations that you have with a stranger in the middle of the night. So it's this lovely meeting of the two of them, and they know really nothing about themselves, but for some reason they start playing this game, and it's called like Honest Truth or something like that. And they just spill, all of their deepest, darkest secrets to one another, because they're never going to see each other ever again. And so she learns that he's a surgeon, and he just like lost a kid on his table today. And he learns that she just lost her dad. And he finds out that she was supposed to write a eulogy for her father's funeral. And she couldn't, because her father was abusive to her mother her whole life. And she grew up in this really abusive household. and didn't have any respect for him. And all her mom said was, you need to think of 5 nice things to say about your dad at the funeral. Like, that's all you have to do. So she got up on the podium and she goes, here are 5 great things that I can say about my father. And then she stood there silently for 5 minutes and like walks away. So that's how the book starts. And of course, you know, it goes on to, you know, she opens a florist shop and, you know, she hires this girl and they become best friends, and she finds out like the girl's brother is actually Ryle. So they start this like whirlwind romance. But simultaneously, she is cleaning out her like childhood bedroom and she finds all of these journals that she kept when she was a teenager. And these journals go through her first love with this kid named Atlas. And she meets him in high school because he also comes from a really abusive family situation, and he's run from home, and he's basically squatting in like the house across the street from her. So she, you know, like takes him food, and, you know, she goes to check on him and, you know, make sure that he's safe. And she sneaks him into her bedroom so he can have a warm place to sleep, because he's in this like house with no electricity and it's like Boston winters. So you get 2 very different stories. You get like adult Lily, she's like mid-20s, and her relationship with Ryle, and you get teenage Lily and her relationship with Atlas. And I don't want to spoil anything, but the whole concept is, what if your perfect relationship doesn't turn out to be so perfect? And what happens when like potentially, I'm trying not to ruin anything, potentially certain cycles tend to duplicate themselves in your life, and how do you go about that? And who do you reach out to? And, you know, how are your relationships affected? And, you know, how do you deal with that as a person? And it's a really good book. And I don't want to say too much else because like you'll kind of ruin it, but it's a really nice dichotomy of like her growing up and learning about herself, and ultimately picking herself in the end, which is kind of a really nice, like, I'm not giving away the ending, but like ultimately the choices that she makes are to benefit herself. And I don't think you see that a whole lot in like a quote unquote romance novel. It's usually just like romance heavy and it's all about like one couple or the other. But in this book, like Lily chooses her, which is really cool. So I don't want to say too much else because I don't want to like ruin the, you know, ironically the drama of it all. But all 3 of those adults, so like Lily, Ryle, and Atlas, at some point end up, you know, crossing paths in the future as adults. And it's just a very beautiful, very moving, will definitely make you cry. Like I finished it at 2:00 in the morning and I'm just sobbing. Like, why did I do this to myself? Like, I knew this was going to happen. But it's beautiful and it's really well written, and it will break your heart, but also give you hope. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, read this book. It's one of my favorites. And just look at the cover. It's so pretty. Not that
I do love that cover.
Right? Isn't it gorgeous? Which is really cute because her name is Lily Bloom. And she opens a florist shop, which sounds very like Hallmark movie. I promise you, this is not a Hallmark movie.
No, that doesn't sound like that.
No. But yeah, the flowers.
Very pretty cover.
Yeah. It was a
I do love a good
fantastic
cover.
book. Yeah, I've read really
Just
bad
covers.
We should. I've read the worst books because they have beautiful covers.
Especially,
and I've also like avoided reading really, really good books because I didn't like their covers.
That too.
There's something to be said.
Like for whatever reason, when I see a classic and it's got one of those brand new covers and it's all like artsy and really cool, I'm like, oh, I really want to read that classic. But when it's in the old version, I'm like,
yeah,
no.
Yeah.
When you see like the Penguin Random House, just like that, like that brown cover, I'm like, I don't want to read that.
No, I don't want
I have several classics that I purchased just because they had really cool covers with the intention of reading them, but then I haven't yet. But really cool covers.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have done some classicals like for this one because I feel like a lot of classical literature
drama?
is very
Yeah. I was actually just about to mention like classics are pretty dramatic too.
Okay, so I'm going to be the outlier here, and I completely disagree. I think classics are built up to be dramatic, but then when you read them, I'm like, why are you all freaking out? This is not a big deal. Like, So, but I'm just like not a fan of the classics. I'm so sorry. I apologize to everyone. So I think my opinion is probably like incredibly biased. Every time I read a classic, I'm just like, you are all there. Like, I find the characters over dramatic. Like
They always are.
I feel,
always.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's definitely a trend in classics.
You know, like, and especially like I prefer to read classics written by women. That's just me. Typically, like I had an English degree, so I spent a lot of time reading classics or attempting to read classics and then really just Googling it to see where it was going to go. Because, you know, you can find it on Spark Notes. But you know what I mean? And like the ones that I love the most are the ones written by women because they were more honest, they had a better understanding, and they pulled from other places. And I think the only one that I've ever truly loved and would totally read again is Jane Eyre. I think that's one of the only ones, mostly just for the fact that like, it takes a long time to get where you need to go. A lot of times in classics, like they're slow, they're dry. Every once in a while you're like, but why are you keeping a woman in the attic? You know? And
like I have so many questions and we're just like not addressing them.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to also take it as a grain of salt, because at the end, like they didn't have the same kind of practices or the readership that we have now, and things are getting faster and faster and faster. And I mean, like, look at the things that we watch and deal with every day. Like, we need books that are a little bit faster most of the time. So to sit down and read a classic that's like 400 or 500 pages long, and it takes like 2 pages just to describe the road they're walking on, like it's going to take a little bit longer for us. But what I recommend and what I did was audiobooks, and you can get the abridged version, so they're not as long. You still get the basic understanding of the book, and you still get the story. It's just a lot of the boring stuff is like swept under the rug. They're like, okay, we don't need to like do that. And I think a couple of our copies of our CD audiobooks at the library are abridged versions of classics. So you can still kind of listen to them and get a good fast pace to it. But they're always dramatic. They always are. And I feel like it's the love aspect in it. They're like trying to really pull as much from that like love interest to be more dramatic, to be more like in your face about it. And I just feel like it's because they don't have a lot of outlets to have that. Like they don't have movies, like they just have books and letters that they write each other. So I mean,
no, and I think you made a really good point about like all of the stuff that we have nowadays. Like I will be the first one to admit that I honestly think that I am like some form of desensitized, right? So I have a really hard time connecting with books like that, because I'm like, okay, but all I read is like adventure or fantasy or sci-fi, where it's like fast paced and like there's so much going on that I have a very hard time appreciating like a simple story. And that's my own issue, right? But I think that's definitely a thing for a classic, that people are so used to like all of the things all of the time that it's hard to connect when it's like a little bit more simplistic. I will say though that Pretty Women I've read like 10 times. It's probably one of my favorite books, and that's a classic. So like, does that count for something? I just love
it.
It totally does. I actually had 2 girls. Our libraries are all open. We're very happy about it. I had 2 girls come in on like my first day in. They're about 11 years old, and they both picked up Romeo and Juliet. And I know we don't really like talk about plays on here, but I feel like we should totally talk about plays every once in a while.
Yeah.
And they picked up Romeo and Juliet. They're 11. And I was like, have you ever read Shakespeare before? And they were like, no. I was like, okay, like I'm going to warn you, it's going to be a little confusing at first. Another drama, right? Like romance is mostly about drama. Let's be honest. We all are very mad at the Friar. Anyways, I was like, I love this. But one of the options that I said to them, I was like, you should really think about this, is either do an audiobook with it or watch the play as you're reading, because you need to see the context of it as you're going along. Because a lot of things that we see, like what's happening, and I was reading one of them, it's like, it's telling you as you're going along, like, oh, I hope I don't lose this letter. That would end up really badly. And it's because they have to nod to the audience. The audience is having a hard time following along. It's new. And I think a lot of that can go with a lot of classics, is that you kind of, it's good to kind of watch it, because you're also, and I know we're not really doing a classics right now, we're doing drama, but with classics, you're meant to sit down and analyze them. You're meant to
Yeah.
look at them for more than what they are. They're not meant to just be like, this is the story, we're having fun. It's like, oh, you need to pick out like, oh, like what's this? This is about like child labor laws in the 1800s, and like, oh, like what's this? Oh, these are the things that are going on with women at the time. So like you get
Yeah.
something like, oh, which one?
The
am I thinking?
Handmaid's Tale with all the colors, like that's the first thing that comes to mind to me. You know, like the
Yeah.
wives all wear blue because they're pure, and like the handmaids all wear red, and like the symbolic nature of the books is like heavy in classic.
Well, and they add to a lot of things that are going on that we just, it's like if one of us were to read a book from 50 years ago, you just don't know what's going on for the most part. And if you don't know societally what's happening, then it's kind of harder to connect the kind of nods in the literature. And I think that's a lot for drama. Like a lot of drama does focus on society as well, like the impact of an event on society and kind of what's being like pulled from, and that's why like a specific, oh my goodness, with anxious people, like that's one of those things, like you're not just looking at the people, you're looking at what's happening to the society. You're looking specifically at the housing market in Sweden, which we can all identify with here, and the fact that the prices are driven up because people are buying houses, renovating them, flipping them, selling them for more. Like that's a big part of it too. And a lot of things like I must have missed in here because I'm not from Sweden. I don't know the background story. I've never, like, I don't know any of these things. So sometimes it's good to like do a little bit of research, like if you're entering an area that you don't know very well, because you might pick up on more and you might learn some new things. Like I didn't know about the housing market in Sweden, and now I do.
Now you do.
Yeah. Just a reminder to all of our listeners that Google is free.
Yeah.
Like
we Google everything. I don't know what it is. Google it.
Google it.
Google it.
Just learn yourself something today.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my welcome to my TED Talk. That's my rant for the day.
No, but I think that's valid. And like, especially plays too. I think that was a really, really good piece of advice that you gave those girls. Like shout out to the Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes version of
a good movie.
Of Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. I think, again, as somebody who doesn't love to pick up on like nuances of classic literature, and that's my own issue, that was my favorite representation because it was much easier for me to identify all of the modern things that they included in that movie over watching the play. Right? And it's just so good though. It's just so good. Like I don't know anyone who could ever top like that performance of that play.
I was like, you should watch Leonardo DiCaprio when I was at the same time. I was like, you are 11.
You are 11.
Ask your parents first before you go ahead and throw that one on, because it's a little bit more like in the original one, like they're knife fighting, you know, they got swords, but it's guns in the other one. So I was like, you know, it's good because I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's so gorgeous. But I mean, it's so
aside
nice
from that though, he does a really good job as Romeo.
He does a good job in everything he does. But there are so many
flawless
that have been redone. Like if you look at Bridget Jones, like that is a remake of, what is it? I'm so terrible.
It's literally Mr. Darcy. Yeah, it's Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, Pride and Prejudice.
They literally call him Mr. Darcy. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are ways to interact with classics because they've been redone and redone and redone. And there are more fun ones. Like I remember I read Jane Steele, which is still set in the same time period, but a very different look at it. And it was funny because she's a serial killer in this one, and she like totally ups the fact, and this is Jane Eyre, but it's like rewritten as Jane Steele. Still the same kind of like nuances, but written in a more accessible way and more fun too, because she's just like, I'm a serial killer, like this is what it is, like they all deserved it. And it was fun. It was so fun to read it, right? Which is like, you're still getting, like, that's the thing, you don't need to read the original.
No, you're still getting the story. And I think that's like I think that's an interesting segue into talking about like retellings as well. Because like you can get like your classic retellings, like the first thing that comes to mind is like these are obvious retellings of like the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I don't know if you guys read those, but I
very dry.
Oh my God. They are literally, they have no punctuation. And anytime they introduce someone, they'll be like, Achilles, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so. And it'll go like 8 tiers up. And
They
I'm
have like
what are we
20
talking about?
epithets.
Oh my goodness gracious. So that was a lot. That was a lot for high school Aaron to deal with, the Iliad and the Odyssey. But yeah, they're retellings.
Yeah.
And then you'll have your retellings like the Marissa Meyer series, like Cinder, like those are fairy tale retellings. But then you have classic retellings like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Yeah.
Austen
Land.
Loved. Yeah. Austen Land, Sense, Sensibility, and Sea Monsters, which was also really fun. Like,
what is this? And Sea Monsters?
Oh yeah, it's the same author that did Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and they rewrote it Sense and Sensibility. It's Sense, Sensibility, and Sea Monsters.
Love it.
And it was really
graphic
good.
Novels too. I've been noticing a lot of classics that are graphic novels and plays. I love it so much because it's a new way to interact with an older story. So especially with graphic novels and classics, like you're getting that visual that's going to give you the keys, and what you need to see to go into the next thing. And graphic novels, I think, are just so fun anyways. We have them on every platform you can think of. You do not need to come in and get one. You can get a digital one. We have them on Hoopla, Libby, like everywhere you can get graphic novels. And I always recommend them, especially if you're trying to understand a text for school or something like that, because you need to have that thing in front of you that's going to help you understand it a little bit better. And it makes me really happy to see graphic novels starting to come through more.
Me too. And I also think it's really important to shout out movies too. Like, I know we mention movies and TV shows and stuff every once in a while, but like Reader's Advisory, like we mentioned, is, you know, telling people what to read, is an all-encompassing term that could also just be like advisory in general. Like how you decide to ingest your media is up to you. So if you want to read it, if you want to listen to it, or if you want to watch it. And like one of the funnest games I like to play is like, which Shakespearean play is a movie that you didn't know was a movie?
Yeah.
So like those are also really fun ways to get your drama and to get the original story in just like a different medium. Like 10 Things I Hate About You is Taming of the Shrew.
The Lion King.
The Lion King is
The Lion King 2 as well.
Not King Lear.
It's
not King Lear. The Lion King is the one with the Macbeth with the three witches, right? Double. What else? What was A Midsummer Night's Dream?
Actually, I think The Lion King's Hamlet.
Oh no, you're right. It is Hamlet. Sorry, friends. The Lion King is Hamlet.
Romeo and Juliet, which I love. Yeah. It's always been my favorite. I love Kovu.
Yeah, and then like what's that one with Channing Tatum and Amanda Bynes? She's All That.
She's the Man.
She's the Man.
That one's 12th Night.
Is 12th Night. Yeah. And there's always nods, right? Like, you know, the school they go to is Illyria, which is the same town that the characters are from. Or like 10 Things I Hate About You. Like they kept all of the characters' names. So you've got like Kat and Bianca, and like the story is the same. It's just modernized so that people will understand it more. So I think like different types of media are a really good way to ingest like your drama too, if you don't want to go the book route.
Well, I think it's a lot easier to find in media rather than in books. Like for me, immediately I can name like 5 TV shows that are drama, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to books, I'm like, I usually am thinking they're kind of drama-ish, but I would more pair drama with romance, like so much more of the drama tropes, and like it's in romance. Like you'll get them in general fiction. Like Wally Lamb, I think, does a lot more dramatic storytelling, a lot about like people and families. And those ones I think like are dramatic, but to me, like they're just not what I'm looking for in drama. Like I want it to be about romance. Like I want the drama of it all. I want it to be grandiose. Like I want it to be this huge thing. But
I think drama is just way too broad of a term to categorize books as. I think it's a really good like subgenre, because like for instance, there is a fantastic sci-fi author named Blake Crouch, and he writes incredible sci-fi books. Like one of my favorite ones is called Dark Matter, and it's all about the idea of like a multiverse, but his books are incredibly dramatic, right? So while they're action packed, there's a lot of what Shelby said, there's a lot of like it's about people and like family and relationships and those ties. And I think that is probably the easiest indicator or the easiest way to determine something is like drama or dramatic, because it like gets to your heart, right?
Yeah.
And what's the easiest way to like get to someone is like through a loved one.
Yeah. I always say that like drama for me in books is like one of those roller coaster ride books where it's like, I was so invested in the characters, like emotions and their like kind of like their internal journey that it's just like I was just taken on a ride and had no idea where it was going, but like I was fully invested the whole time.
Yeah, I would have to say almost everything that John Green has ever written, I would categorize as drama.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
He himself
definitely.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
He's so dramatic.
He's so dramatic. I'm like, John, are you okay?
He's not. Is anybody? I mean, the people who write books, I just wonder. I have so many questions. I myself have never written a book. I'm just a reader through and through. And it's so fascinating to me, like that people can just write these stories that touch your heart in such a way. Like when I finished Anxious People, like I was bawling my eyes out. Like I was like, I feel everything for everybody right now. And I want to meet these people and hug them and be like, it's going to be okay. But like, how do you do that? And I want to know.
I don't know. I have a bad day and I come home and I cry. Like I could never write a book and be okay.
Yeah.
It would have to be a happy book. It couldn't be a drama.
No.
It'd be like a comedy.
Yeah, I would have to be,
Only happy endings.
Only happy endings, which is usually kind of my rule for books.
Mm-hmm.
Because I personally like to read to escape.
Yes.
And I love me a happy ending.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too with drama how it can be very split. Like it can be a very dramatic book with like a not happy ending, or there can be like they go through so much and then there's like a very maybe if not happy but like positive ending.
I would say hopeful.
Yes, that's yeah.
I think that's a really good thing because like not all of your drama books are gonna get a happy ending, but like hopefully you're left with hope.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying with Addie LaRue. We've mentioned it several.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Everyone, if you haven't read this book, go and read it right now.
A lot of drama.
Lot of drama.
So much mystery, a little bit of romance, but the romance,
a little bit of fantasy.
And fantasy, like everything, but so dramatic. She's so dramatic.
Well, like her life is so dramatic.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. And I think in the end, it's one of those books that I was not necessarily super happy with. I wasn't expecting it. I was very nervous. I was like, I only have a couple pages left and things are not figuring itself out. So I think it had one of those endings that you're not expecting, that you're not okay with, but at the same time, you're like, this is perfect. Mm-hmm. I want this, but I'm glad you did it.
So everyone I've talked to that's read Addie LaRue, have you read it yet, Kylie?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. The ending, I think, is what divides a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the ending.
I agree.
Was it the ending that I wanted?
No.
Because I essentially wanted a happily ever after because that's what I love. Was it the ending we all deserved?
Yes.
It's the ending she deserved.
It's the ending she deserved and he deserved.
Yeah. They all did. It was perfect.
Yeah, that's another book that made me close the book and just bawl. It was so good. Yeah. So I think we've talked about Addie LaRue before. So I don't know if
we definitely have.
Get too much into the plot. But like listeners, if you haven't read about Addie, you gotta go read about it. Our girl. She's pretty great.
Even just for the sections, because like as you go through the different sections of the book and the different parts, they have this little like piece of art or something that she is involved in, and that to me was the thing that really kept me going, was that like I want to know like what this is, because at first you're like, what is this? I don't understand why it's here. And then as you continue through the parts, you're like, oh, they're connected. Like she's gonna tell you like how she's connected. And like I don't know, it was just the art, the atmosphere, it was a beautiful book. The people, New York. I mean,
just the whole concept was so unique. I had never read anything like that before. The closest thing that I could akin it to would be like similar to like Age of Adeline vibes.
Yes, definitely.
But also completely different. But that's like the closest like connection that my brain could make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes most sense. I could totally see Blake Lively
being Addie LaRue.
Yeah.
I was picturing her, you know, in the Age of Adeline where she has that like that classic 1950s hairstyle and like that black dress, like that's full on Addie.
Oh yeah, totally. And she would do such a phenomenal job. Oh, if only. So we want to thank you guys so much for joining us again today. Before we go, I wanted to remind you of some of our programs and services. Of course, we always have Discover Reads, which is basically you tell us what you like to read and we'll tell you what we have for you and what we think you should read. I believe we also have a fall reading program coming up as well that's for adults and children. So keep your eye out for that. It will be coming. Of course, we already talked about our book club picks. You should definitely check them out if you haven't already. Anxious People is one of the choices for the next couple of months. All the choices this year actually are really phenomenal. You guys, I'm talking to Erin right now, did a great job in picking them. Some really interesting titles all over the place. We've got some, I know in November, Brooklyn has a graphic novel, which is through Hoopla. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit easier to read, get through quicker, and then kind of talk about it, that's a good one for you. And then of course, I also want to let you know that we have Calm Your Anxious Mind and Body on September 23rd, which will be 10 days from when this is airing. So I know we talked about anxiety today. If you have some more questions or you just want to calm yourself down, I recommend going there. We also have all of the pre-recorded versions of we have like lots of calming programs and you can go back into our YouTube and watch them as well. So if you don't want to go to this one, you can go back and watch, or it will be posted on YouTube as well. And then, of course, I want to mention our digital film club, which will be starting up again this month. It is the first Monday of the month. You watch the movie at home on Canopy, and then you come in and you do, well, you don't come in, we do Zoom, I'm sorry. We have Zoom, so you'll get sent a link, and then you'll come into the discussion on Zoom and kind of talk about the movie and all that kind of fun stuff. Sherry here at Brooklyn does it, phenomenal, really great program. I always recommend it. Otherwise, I definitely want to do a shout out because it is September when you're seeing this, but our library's TikTok, which Erin runs, went viral. And I have to say it, I'm sorry, it got 2 million views, which is a huge deal. So if you have not seen our TikTok, head over there. Whitby Library is our handle. And of course, Whitby Library is our handle on all social media platforms. You can reach out to us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, any of those fun ones to let us know what you want to read. And of course, our TikTok is RA, so Reader's Advisory, if you're looking for some great reads. They've got some really funny ones coming out. They've put a lot of work into it. So we're very proud of them. They're going to be on the news. They've been on the news already a couple of times. So you can always look back on those. And of course, on our main page, we have our connection to Facebook. So if you scroll down, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's a little box and you can always see the videos there. We post all of our videos of our lovely Jess and Erin and their interviews because we're so proud of them. But other than that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for the last 40 minutes talking about drama. We do love a good drama. Don't forget to come out and look at the book list as well. It's always posted online. Any book we ever mention will be on there from all of our episodes ever. And we'll see you guys in a month. Okay, so bye.
Bye everyone.